Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
No idea. I don't know why you're getting blamed for it, but it's your fault anyway.
I like coming in where I'm not being blamed.
Kristin's got nothing to do with you. You're the only angel of the group. It's Peter's fault, and maybe Phil's too. I don't know.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older and we manage all these different teams, if I can take the blame and move it forward, that makes
Happily.
my day complete. It's
Happily.
wonderful.
Right.
Take it and run.
I'm glad this is being recorded, gentlemen. You need to give it to me.
Absolutely.
Kristin and Peter meet Kenny.
Hi.
He's the other half of This Commerce Life. So.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You as well. I've heard enough about you.
Vanucci, is that Irish?
Chinese.
Hi.
Like Chang.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, similar to Chang.
Yeah.
We're just a little more west.
Everybody's Irish one day, right?
I skipped that one. I don't have anything green. I got nothing. I can't even do that day for him. Jeez.
Yeah.
Terrible. I'm
It's
part
brutal.
Irish. Every day of the year, I'm part Irish.
And as you can tell by the size of my head, I'm not Irish.
Well, Zakarow
Zakarow
sounds Irish too. So
it is very Irish.
It is very Irish.
That has been brought to our attention once as we crossed the border and looked at the passport with a friend of mine who's also Ukrainian and was like, "Oh, a couple of good Irish boys coming into the U.S." We're like, "Yep."
Alrighty then.
He always points at his head, and I call it his Ukrainium.
Ukraine, that's funny. Well, my mom's side is Russian, right? But they don't know where from. It was probably between Ukraine and Russia. They were the Doukhobors that left a million years ago.
Yep. Same with my dad. It's very murky.
It is very murky.
Well, and there's no paper.
Yeah.
They're in farm villages. Like who keeps records,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Exactly.
and that border kept moving
As we can tell, it still has a tendency to move. Unfortunately,
That's
Still
an
moving.
entire other
Moving.
other podcast. Yeah.
I know. Same problem though.
Yeah.
Never changes, man. That
Yeah,
border just slides perpetually, right?
It's
Unfortunately.
true.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nice. Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we are. I'm excited.
Phil hasn't shut up about you guys for weeks.
I'm the
Like,
one
whoa,
connector in all of this.
I hear that Sophie has not shut up about us for a week. So
I've heard that too.
Gosh,
Yeah.
she's
I've heard
such
that too.
Yeah. Honestly,
It's all good.
It's good, but it's bad. It's
Fantastic.
I don't know what you've started to create, but whatever it is.
little
Right,
monsters everywhere.
Yeah, little monster. Yeah, little
Yeah.
monster.
Ah,
Yeah,
whatever.
For sure.
It's good for you.
Oh man. A quick intro. So we have Peter and Kristin on with us, and they run Tom Sawyer, which transparently I'm doing some work with them, but even more transparently is I've started feeding it to Sophie, and Sophie's turned into this. She was already a spoiled princess, but now it's worse. And she's demanding and kind of like this hangry princess when it comes to dinner. She just freaking loves your food. So I don't.
It's fantastic.
That's good.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's
And
great.
she's going to be the healthiest princess.
Yes.
around.
Yes.
This is the most
With a little bit
Yes.
he's told me, and we'll get
It's
into
so
it.
great.
He's told me that the concept and the food sounds like it's. I mean, the pictures look bloody amazing. Like seriously, if the food even looks half that good, I mean, it's table ready. Never mind for the pet. Like it looks really, it's really well done. So I told Phil, I said, wow, this stuff looks like this stuff's really, really nice.
Well,
I don't even
I
have
mean,
a pet, right? And I would buy
Yeah.
it because I'd be thinking, wow, this stuff's pretty. This is okay.
We get that. People who don't have pets say that our food makes them want to get a cat or a dog. We're
Well, that's
okay,
just it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's actually making them want to.
Well,
to
so you
get
don't
a
have to worry
pet.
about food because you always hear, like you always hear the same thing is, about kibbles and this and that and this and that. And you're thinking, holy Christ, if I didn't get a pet, like we had a cat when we were little, in my Chinese Italian house, right? And that cat just basically was on the table. It went into
Fair
her.
game. Fair
Right.
game.
And so
Yeah.
that cat, she ate pasta, which nothing good for her. But who knew at the time? We didn't know. But now you're thinking about it. Oh my God, you got to feed these pets. Like,
Pasta is good for pets. What are you
Why
talking
didn't
about?
you know
Our number one seller is Italian beef pasta.
Yep.
we were doing that 40 years, 50 years ago.
Yeah. Italians they got food locked up, right? You just follow what the Italians do, and you're going to be happy and healthy.
Okay, I'm going with that one.
Yeah.
I'll take that one.
Well,
So,
it's interesting. Just on that point, we've had a lot of people request that we make companion meals for the human, and it's interesting because, we have a bunch of health technology companies, and we're big into our own health data and always kind of improving our own health. Yet there really is nothing on the market that if we wanted to have something for dinner tonight and ensure that it was meeting all of the dietary and functional kind of nutritional needs that we have, I can't go out and buy anything like that with fresh food. I could remember they had that, was it Soylent Green or whatever, a long time ago for developers, so they wouldn't leave their desk. But it's interesting that we don't have anything like that for humans. And
because humans just have always done rotational, met nutrient needs through rotational eating, but pet food, or not met it. But
I think last 75 years, I don't think it's a not met it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Probably. But
processed food has killed it, right?
Oh, 100%. It's they have to keep putting things back into it because
Right.
they've stripped it.
I think in the old days, Kristin, I think that's what they did. I think, seasonality dictated how a hunt went or didn't go, how, the garden went or didn't go would dictate. So I think you did. You probably fluctuated and you picked up,
Yep.
you needed iron, you gravitated to something because your body knew that's where it came from, all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
But I think we've just completely beat the shit out of food over the last 50, 60 years.
We have.
No, I still do that. So when I'm low on fried chicken, I go get fried chicken because that's what I need. So I don't understand. I still have those instincts.
Yeah.
You are, because you're just you. You're you. And I can't say anything because he knows I'm just as bad as he is. But I do him and I both do a lot of home cooking. And it's seriously one of the things I noticed when he showed me the webpage and we're looking, I said, holy shit, man, this looks like food. Like seriously, that would just go onto the table. Mm-hmm. I mean, which really and truly, my cat ate. Again, we thought it was because we already told us not to do that, but we did it anyway. But she ate what we ate.
Who told you not to do that? The pet food companies?
No, because in the 70s there was no such. It was probably my nonna who was just getting mad at us feeding the cat or something. Probably.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Or maybe
okay,
my
so
mom was mad.
Before we go down too far, do you guys mind introducing yourselves and then? Let's wander a little bit. We'll get to Tom and Sawyer for sure, but we'd love to kind of hear about your journeys a little bit. You've alluded a little bit to some other stuff going on, so we want to hear some of that stuff too. But I will shut up and then let you guys talk. The next kind of 45 minutes are yours to guide us through, and we'll ask some questions and hopefully have some laughs along the way.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. So I'm Kristin Matthews. I'm one of the co-founders of Tom and Sawyer, which is a fresh cooked pet food company in Canada. The journey started in 2014 when we got Sawyer, who I'm sure will saunter through one of our offices at some point. Oh, here he comes.
Oh, he's cute.
He knows it.
Yeah, he's cute.
He knows it. So we came home with that bag of kibble that everybody gives you as a starter pack, and from day one he wanted none of it, and it just became a struggle every single day. And I was going back to the pet food store and trying another brand and playing games with him, and it just became stressful for everybody. And so at that time, I was a forensic accountant, and I don't know why it took me so long to put on that cap and start investigating what the heck was going on. But what I did is I looked at the back of the package, and I'm like, what are these ingredients? What does this mean? I wouldn't want to eat this. So then I started doing a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, and then talk about rabbit holes. Like it brought me down into a massive forensic investigation of the pet food industry, and it just shocked me. And so the promise that I made to Sawyer is that we'd never feed him anything like this again. Now, throughout that journey, we actually did turn to raw as well. And this is back in 2014 when raw was, it was a thing, but it isn't quite what it is today for some of the brands. And he got really sick with E. coli poisoning. And so that was out. And so we said to our veterinarian, what do we do? And but we're not doing this and we're not doing that. And, and where are we at now? And she said, well, you could start cooking for him, but you have to make sure that it's complete and balanced. And we're like, okay, what does that mean? So we had to figure out all of that. And so I'm cooking for this little dog, and I don't cook at all. Peter is a fantastic chef in our house, but I'm cooking for this very tiny dog. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to last for very long. So where do I find this? And the veterinarian who's a friend of ours said, well, there's nothing out there that's already made like this. And we said, well, I think this needs to happen. And so we started the R&D just actually in our kitchen, figuring it all out with vets and chefs and whatnot. And then we decided there was real legs to this thing. And in 2015, Tom Sawyer was born commercially, and we now have a commercial kitchen and chefs making the food. And we're in we do home delivery across Canada for e-commerce subscription, but we're also in pet retail stores across Canada. We're going to be launched down in the States. So it's become a real thing and in Canada, we're sort of the pioneers in this space. And now there's a lot more options out there, which is fantastic. So that's sort of the genesis. And, and Peter's, with his background in business and understanding culinary, he was super involved he's got a lot of other businesses too. So wow. He brought in a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because when Kristin was still working as a top forensic accountant, we had always had this conversation where I had left one of the world's largest tech companies to start up a software company, and then since then we've helped launch a bunch of other businesses or have an advisory business as well. And one of the main things that we do work with, including in our CEO advisory company, is really trying to help leaders and businesses find their voice of being authentic and being able to make an emotional connection and to really show their differentiation. And we really try to employ a lot of that when we were launching Tom Sawyer. And it dovetailed perfectly with Kristin's background, because as a forensic accountant, it was always about her being in a court on a witness stand, having to defend a particular case. And so everything has to be very transparent and very much tested. Now,
the staff just love me. Our team members are just like, they admit to things they haven't even done.
Exactly. So then you take that perspective, though, and you apply it to something like the pet food industry. And in Canada, we learned the pet food industry is completely unregulated. When we launched, no one realizes that we have these wonderful family pets, and yet we give them a product that has zero oversight. The only loose regulation that has existed in Canada has been basically a voluntary work measure that grocery retailers employ, which is because pet food is so disgusting and unregulated, that they've voluntarily agreed that they shouldn't be within 6 feet of any real food. So that's why you'll always find pet food in the cleaning supply aisle in a grocery store. So,
and we challenge you to find any grocery store.
Well, there's
anywhere.
none. I know that, but I never knew that spot was there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what we wanted to do was we were like, hey, if we're going to get into this business, and who the heck are we to get into a pet food business? We know nothing about this. We know business, we know technology, we know these other things, but we're like, let's go so far the other way on the spectrum that if this is where the current industry lies, let's go the other way. Let's start up a facility that is completely open and transparent to the public. So people can come in and actually talk to our chefs and our pet nutritionists and be able to see what ingredients we're using. Let's make all of our food using all human edible standards. Why aren't we making a pet food that is so safe that humans can eat it? So this is why we've gone so far, particularly, and how we're so differentiated in the market.
But I think
it's
we
interesting
needed
because
to, right? Like I think somebody needed to come in who wasn't in the pet food industry to create something like this, because if you're a lifer in that area, it's hard to see beyond it, and it's hard to see what you need to do and what you need to change. So you kind of need somebody to come in who's kind of at the beginning shunning the pet food industry and their practices and what they're doing, so that you can do it with just like clean eyes, clean heart.
Can I just I want to go back a step, because I think the things that always amaze Kenny and I, right, is in this, and you guys have just done it, which is both of you come from completely different industries, and like being a forensic accountant, it's perfectly natural for you to go and make
makes total
dog
sense
food.
to me. Yeah, total
Which
sense.
we love a lot, right? Like,
I'll even give you the concept before, Phil. Let me interrupt.
Yeah,
the concept before is it's an animal that can't cook. When did we figure out that dogs and cats needed cooked food? Do you know what I mean? Like, even that part's bizarre. Think about it. If it's an animal in the wild, I don't know any dogs or cats that can rub two sticks together and cook. So I'm trying to think, like, when did it become a thing we had to cook for the pets?
When we became smart enough and learned how to use fire and cook ourselves, because if you actually go back and look at research and history, people's brains grew and they became smarter and more evolved once they learned how to use fire to cook food.
Right, because food had flavor, and then they could eat different foods. Meats became different,
safety,
proteins, all of it, killed bacteria, all of that stuff.
100% allowed your brain to be able to be used for other things. So, we're now employing something that we've learned. Yeah, we're now employing something that we've learned to the benefit of our pets.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I'm just because seriously, because in our house it wasn't done because we thought the cat deserved cooked foods. The cats can eat what we eat, because nobody's going to go out and make a special meal, and nobody wanted to spend, whether we didn't have a lot of options, then it was probably cat chow or whatever. And we hated the smell too. So it wasn't by, some science. It was just because you're in the house. Guess what? You're eating. This is what we're eating, is what you're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. And Peter's parents were the same way.
Yeah. It's also interesting because you see different, you see biological changes and consumer trends that really have also forced this market segment growth. So, for example, similar to humans and what Kristin just outlined around kind of the inclusion of cooking proteins and foods back, and how that's impacted us. The same with dogs and cats. So a lot of people now still talk about the fact that dogs are, wild animals, descendants of wolves, etc. I'm sorry, but you saw our dog, our 10-pound dog. Like, he wouldn't survive a night.
No, that dog is dinner.
And not only has he is biologically changed as well. That he doesn't have the stomach acidity levels that were required to fend off the natural Listeria, E. coli, salmonella that's on all raw meats. Like, there's a reason why we, even with the best chicken ever at a grocery store, we still are supposed to cook chicken, because it is full of natural bacteria in the food.
Right.
And we don't have the stomach acidity levels. We will get food poisoning on that. Now the majority of dogs have the same situation, because they haven't, after eating decades of kibble and other forms of food that haven't had any pathogens, they just don't have the stomach acidity levels to protect themselves. And so that's why you've had a lot of issues around feeding of raw pet food, because not only do dogs not have those natural like enzymes and stomach acidity levels to break that down, but you're also dealing with an unregulated industry. So if the grocery store chicken is kind of here on the spectrum, now you go to a completely unlicensed raw pet food business somewhere out of the back of wherever it's made, and you have no idea what kind of bacteria is on that. So the other thing is, consumers have started treating pets even more like in a differentiated way, a member of the family. Like,
for sure,
our dog was a member of our family growing up on the farm, but not like our dog now is under the covers with us at night. And while you have young children or elderly immunocompromised members of the family in the house, people have also looked to safer ways to make sure that there isn't foodborne potential illness within the whiskers of a dog that can be passed along when kissing or
Right.
nuzzling the dog at night. So
Mhm.
those are some of the changes that have happened and
Wow,
why we're
interesting.
not talking about gently cooked food.
No,
Mhm.
it's cool, right? I mean, it's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it still doesn't, like Phil said from the beginning. It's still, the software and forensic accounting and
Yeah.
cooked pet
Well,
food is really,
yeah.
but I don't. It's not linear to me. To you two, apparently, it might be.
But
To
a
me, I
little,
don't see it,
bit, because I had alluded to that. I use my investigative skills
for sure.
to start researching, because the type of forensic accounting I did, I'd be going into business all the time and having to tear it apart to
Right,
figure
right,
out something.
right.
And so I would often learn their business better than they even did. So to me, it was just it was like doing a forensic file.
That's just cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And it's also bringing, as I say, that authenticity and accountability to whatever the business is. Like we treat all of our businesses like that.
Mhm.
So whether it's even like looking at genomics health data or digital twins in hospitals for dealing with electronic medical record information, like that information needs to be accurate. It needs to be secure. And so we bring that same perspective to our pet food business. And, it's funny. I still remember when we were kicking off years ago, like just the things that you'd see. Like I remember at one point there was a brand that we saw that was kind of trying to do what we were doing in the early stages. And I was like, oh, look there's a veterinarian who's endorsing the product. There was a person on the website with a white lab coat or whatever. Kristin in her
Dr.
investigation.
And it said Dr. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and
came to realize that it was a chiropractor.
chiropractor. Yeah.
But no one would ever know that.
Yeah, nobody would
you're-
ask that. Yeah.
You're deceiving people, and it's
Yeah.
little things like that. Or now we have, there's some small competitors in the Canadian market, but like they're really just glorified marketing companies that don't really care about the product, don't have animal nutrition teams yet. You go to most of our competitors' websites, you don't know who the owners are. You maybe only know their first name. They never have an address where you can go and visit. And they talk in terms of having these teams. But when those individuals come and, ask for positions at our business, you come to realize really quickly, like it's a team of one. And there's just so much deception. And yet we trust, because we're used to food being regulated and trusting that things are made in a safe way.
Yeah.
We just assume that that's the case with dogs and cats. And it's still shocking that all these years into it, we're really no further ahead as an industry in Canada.
But it's a wild, the pet food industry is a wild industry because there's such high margin in traditional pet food. And so it's all put back into marketing, and they're geniuses when it comes to marketing, because they've made us all believe that pets should be fed these little brown
Thingies.
pellets.
They smell
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
They smell
Yeah.
terrible.
So take us down this now. So you've started cooking. You've done some investigation. You figured out that you've got something unique. What
Yeah.
happens next? Where does
Then-
this go?
Then again, I'm still using my forensic thing. Well, you got to put together a team of experts. You can't just do it all yourself. So food scientists, trained chefs, animal nutritionists, veterinarians, like it's putting together a group who are experts in their own areas and marrying the animal science with the real food science and trying to figure out how to bring those two together, because the animal nutritionists may know about how to formulate something that's kibble or canned food or whatever, and the chefs and the food scientists may understand about human food, but we got to build a bridge
Right.
between these two. And so that's what we ended up doing.
A lot of people, though. That's a lot of stuff going on, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm sure there's stuff to be put in human food. Your food looks human anyway, it's like human food. But I'm sure there's stuff that you got to use up on the salt potentially. I'm assuming some of the spices
100%.
potentially. So there's always those trying to figure out, okay, like what does an animal really not need?
Yeah,
Maybe it
because
doesn't
they're
need
not
chili
a little
peppers or whatever.
And that's really important, Kenny, because a dog and a cat is not a little human, and there are certain things that are highly toxic to
And
them.
I think that's sometimes we forget that part too, right? Pets, I mean, they're animals. They're part of the family, no doubt, but they're still, I mean, our pet was, or Josie was part of the family.
Yeah.
Whether my mom and dad said it or not, because deep down they knew she was part of the family, right? But it's just a different time. It's just, I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's making sure we're
fascinating,
doing everything that's that's right for them, with respect to their nutritional needs.
Well, people will do it today too. Like people are totally different with their pets than they were years ago, right? I mean, our cat slept outside, slept inside. Either way, I mean, you can't let a cat outside now. Like in East Vancouver, coyotes will get them.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, in Toronto
There's,
too,
yeah, exactly.
Are you kidding? Sophie lost a battle with a squirrel the other day. Like I can't. She's 12 pounds. Like she should be able to take squirrels, but no, it's not a thing.
No, not a chill.
Anything,
Yeah,
right?
No,
they don't quite
get
it.
on.
I know these are Mississauga squirrels. The Toronto squirrels are even tougher. Like
They're tough.
she can't do a suburb squirrel. She can't do a city squirrel. Like it's not happening, right? So,
but it's like everything in life, though. It's like the best we can do as a society is to take learnings and new innovation that comes on and insight and data and be able to actually employ that for better outcomes. And like I grew up on a farm in a small town called Bowmanville, about an hour east of Toronto here. And like we had this dog who lived in our barn. I can remember a small handful of times that we would bring her in. Her name was Misha. We'd bring her in if it was like -40. Like, she was a farm dog and she hung out with the horses. And yet she lived over 21 years.
Wow.
As a part wolf husky mix.
Okay.
She was the runt of a litter from a breeder of sled dogs up in Frobisher Bay. And somehow my parents had a connection and we got this dog.
Wow.
And in hindsight, we didn't realize this until 2 years after launching Tom Sawyer. But my parents reminded us, they were like, remember, we never fed Misha commercial pet food. We gave her whatever we were having for breakfast and whatever we were having for dinner. And my mom had zero knowledge about what was toxic. And frankly, in hindsight, I think a lot of times what we would feed was probably 3 or 4 days overdue in the fridge. And we were like, oh, we'll give it to the dog. But it just, it did.
Well, she would laugh and she's like, oh, Misha ate Dijon pork chops. We're like,
Dijon mustard sauce.
But interestingly, all of the oldest, like longest living dogs, like through the Guinness Book of World Records, have all eaten fresh food.
It's funny. My cat was 19.
Wow, that's good
for a cat. Long run, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
but you're not seeing that in commercially fed pets. They're not living this.
None of the pets seem to. They all actually seem. I don't know. This may be just me, or when we were little. I mean, maybe it's because the pets didn't last that long, but I think they did. I think nobody had pets, for 5 years, and then they were all sick and dying because we were kids of immigrant families. You ain't going to the vet. You ain't spending $5,000 to get a cat fixed.
Yep.
Like that's not going to happen, right? But they never seem to get as sick. I got so many friends; they seem to go to the vet like 10 times in this pet's life.
But maybe because the pet knew that. The pet knew, like, I can't get sick because
get sick, man. It's going to be trouble. Eh?
It's over.
Listen,
or it is that. Maybe it's just because of maybe how they actually did live. They actually, they were inside, outside.
Yep.
They ate differently because, again, not everybody was going to run around buying cat chow.
The food's in the house. You could be talking about humans right now.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Pets are literally, they're just mirrors of how we live our lives. We're not going outside as much. We're eating processed food.
We seem to be going to the doctor more than we do. A lot of diseases all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but you know what I mean.
No. But that's what we're seeing is we're carrying all of those same types of practices into our pets now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We will blame a litter box yet ourselves, but
But we'll go after food. Like we are all blaming too much sugar, too much salt, too much this, too much that. So I mean, logically, I guess it would stem. If your pets are going to the doctor 10 times in a lifetime, and really, diet's got to be somewhere in there. You would think anyway.
100%.
It's the most significant part. It's the most significant part for us. So, like, imagine we always talk about the fact that, like, imagine if you were to eat like Pringles or some kind of like, fast food.
Well, remember that guy? We did the guy who did the McDonald's thing.
Yeah,
he did that thing for the week or whatever. And I ended up getting super sick. What was Super Size Me or whatever the hell it was called?
Yeah, Super Size Me.
That didn't work out too well. That experiment on its own, forget Pringles. That was, at least you had a bun, you had some vegetables and some meat. That was a train wreck.
Yep. No,
right? An absolute train wreck.
So think about what's in what we feed our pets, especially if they're fed kibble, and you've got the exact same situation. So that's exactly why right now we've decided to try to do what we can to give people, pet parents, as we like to call ourselves,
Yeah.
other options, so that at least there's another option available to them of something that is safe and highly nutrition focused, yet very tasty. And, we try to have fun with it by having very, Italian beef pasta dinner and all these fun recipes, because, hey, we can still be fun, and it's
Why
good
not?
looking food, and we're making fully human edible food here.
And we'll be right back.
Hey, Kenny,
Phil,
I have a question for you.
Phil, you always have questions for me.
I do always have questions.
I feel like an old man sitting here waiting to dispense my wisdom, Phil.
No, I think you're going to sound very wise with this one.
Oh boy.
So I'm a brand.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get connected to, kind of major grocery stores, natural food chains, kind of the whole shebang, the entire retail thing, if you will. The only thing I really know how to do is to make my product.
Right.
So not only do I need to get connected to retail, but I also need someone who's going to help me, explain and walk me through things like, pre-books and promotional calendars, help me with new product launches, things like that. Is there someone that that might be able to help me with that?
I would go to my buddy Matt Lebeau, that Lebeau Excel.
Okay.
Been around a long, long time, well respected, well liked, super knowledgeable, can do natural health easy peasy. And it doesn't have to be natural health food. You can talk supplements. It doesn't really matter what side it's on, health and beauty, etc. Knows the conventional retailers as well as the natural retailers. Been in the business a long time. Thoughtful, well-spoken, highly professional, and he'll be honest with you, which is probably one of the best things or biggest things you'd want in someone in that sort of position. You don't need someone to tell you what you want to hear. You need someone to tell you the way it is. So yeah, top of mind, that's one of the ones I would think of for sure.
I love it. So Matt Lebeau at Lebeau Excel, and that's LEBEAUEXCEL.com.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us. Now back to the podcast.
At the end of the day, it's what, everyone has a different budget, everyone has a different perspective, and our food's not for everyone. But at the time, when Kristin was explaining earlier in the process, we weren't going to make this ourselves for our dog. We have a hard enough time cooking sometimes for ourselves, having enough time to. And, the difference is Sawyer can't make food for himself. Kind of like a child, he relies on us to make the best decisions for his health and
Right.
well-being. And
For his entire life. A child grows
Entire
up and
life.
makes their own decision.
Yeah.
Right.
so we would feel pretty crappy if, we just were like, oh, whatever, he'll be fine. He's,
So let me ask you
Yeah.
something. So because I'm sort of reading between the lines and to some degree, what are the economics like on something like this? So for, if someone's going to go out and let's say do kibble and cans and then probably some leftover food or whatever, I don't know what it costs to feed a pet, solely a pet. What's the difference between like an old school way and your way, for example, without making I'm sure it's gonna be more
it would be
expensive.
similar. Oh, 100%. It would be the same as if you were going and buying the dollar hamburgers at McDonald's as your meals every day versus
Right.
going and getting a ready prepared meal at a in the grocery store at like that.
Okay.
The pasta meals, whatever.
It's the same economics.
It's definitely, yes, because it's the
Same
quality
thing.
of the food. It's actually
Right.
being made, and people will be like, oh, you're so much more than raw. Well, but those are raw ingredients. We're cooking it, so there's an entire other
Right.
step in team. It's like one's a butcher and one's actually like a restaurant type of thing. So it's the same type of unit economics. And
Okay.
one of the things that we were talking about earlier too at the beginning of our conversation was about how we rotationally eat, we get our nutrients through blah blah. It's quite a manufactured idea too that you should be that a dog needs to eat one brand, one kibble, one this, one that. There's no reason that they can't have variety too, and that Tom and Sawyer can't be part, or fresh food can't be a part of a
That was my
diet
second
to
question was going to
whatever.
be like, are you advocating or I'm assuming we're recommending that this is what the pet should eat 24/7. This is what the pet should eat. But
Yes.
let's say economics starts playing a role and, I want to participate,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking, shit, I can't do 7 days a week. It's going to
Yeah.
kill me. How about if I did 3 days of kibble and 4 days? Like, does that,
Or you
does
mix
that
it up.
work?
100%. Or
A little
or
bit
you
of
mix
fresh
it.
Whatever
every
you
day.
do.
You
Like,
mix
I don't
it.
care how you split. Like,
100%.
okay.
Any amount of fresh is best, right? It's the
For
same as,
sure.
we all know probably what would be the pinnacle of how to eat for ourselves, that it's all organic, and that
And we
it's
don't.
this, and that there's
Right.
salads every meal and whatever, and unfortunately Kentucky Fried Chicken isn't on that food pyramid, but we don't. So if you can introduce some level of fresh for your pets, it's only going to benefit them. And
No, I think
anybody
that's
that
great, though. Yeah.
yeah, and anybody that we've had the ability to speak to, whose pet has had some type of health issue, or they've seen a decline or whatnot, and they've come to us and they've started feeding our food. They say the transformation is incredible. But we know how we feel when we start
But I was to say, but
eating a bit
that's logical.
healthier.
If you eat healthier, you
Yeah.
feel better,
Yep.
right?
100%.
And if you eat healthy for a long stretch and then do a McDonald's or a Kentucky Fried Chicken, mentally you enjoy it. Physically, you're probably not that
Yeah.
Yeah,
happy.
no. You
Exactly.
pay for it after.
You do
really
pay
do.
for it.
100%.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
So
100%.
I guess so. It's really sort of in the, because we're also into a different time. Like, prices have gone through the roof. People are economically a little more challenged.
Mhm.
People are a little freaked out on what things are. It's just trying to figure out, because I think the idea is phenomenal. So how do you just incorporate this? Even you may not be able to go full tilt, but at least more
Yep.
often. Can you do it?
Yep.
How do you do it? Right.
Totally.
Well,
And it's where you choose to spend your money too. I actually
100%.
last night I was watching I not a plug because I have nothing to do with them, but I was watching the documentary The Minimalist, and it was just
Mhm.
interesting because I was just watching what they were talking about with how we've just been driven to overconsume and not food,
Big time.
like
Everything.
things.
Everything.
And how before you even think about it, you're already served up an ad for it, and and then
Yeah.
as soon as you buy it, within 24 hours, Amazon's put it on your doorstep, and that people just have things and things and things, and
Right.
and so quite frankly, I think we're with the fact that everything is getting so much more expensive, and our pet food included is I think I'm hoping that people will start to shift towards the idea of what is the most important, what is going to bring them the most joy, what is going to bring them,
Right.
their pets the most joy, and stop consuming so much, but make really,
Right.
really smart choices about what they do buy.
Right.
There's another element of this that I think is interesting, because I run into this. I don't know if you do, but when you start looking, the first moments when you start looking at dog food in particular, I'll say dog food because I've never owned a cat, right? But with dog food in particular is when you start looking at nutrition, it's seriously a quagmire. Like, it's not even a rabbit hole yet. It's a quagmire, right? Because you
Yeah.
realize I know shit all about my dog and what my dog really needs.
Right.
And then I know shit all about the chemicals that are in here, or about anything on this label except what the marketing copy might say. You don't know his marketing copy, you just know that there's copy, right? And I think the part that is really interesting is there are a lot of people that at that point would go, it's not me per se, right? Like, it's my dog, so everybody else eats this, it should be fine, and they break away and kind of go do the kibble thing. But like, getting the folks engaged, because it's not a little task to then go, okay, I've got to learn a whole set of nutrition and a whole set of like facts that I can actually govern around, right? Like, so before they get to you or like fresh dog food, they've almost got to learn all of those things, right? So I'm curious, like, even at the early days, how that kind of, did that get in your way in terms of kind of like making this thing stand up on its own? Like, you got all these experts together, you started making food. Like,
You still got to
what
get into
happens?
the end person. Like,
Yeah.
how does it still work? Because I don't.
So what I'd say is, so first of all, it's very challenging, especially in Canada, for consumers. And the reason I say that is because of the lack of regulation. There is no baseline. So, for example, one thing that was a bit challenging for us is people would come to us and come into our kitchen of our retail store, the first one in Toronto when we first opened, and we'd be showing them, oh, we're using chicken breast. And they're like, oh yeah, no, the kibble that we buy now is chicken breast. And we're like, no, it's not. Like,
It has chicken flavor in it.
Yeah, but it's got a photo
got-
of chicken breast on the package, so yeah.
Hence
This is
the chicken
problem,
flavor.
is that
Hence
they
the
can
chicken
show a
flavor.
chicken breast on
Yeah.
the package, and yet they use an organization in the US that has redefined ingredients for the pet food industry. So chicken, when you go and look it up, which is difficult to find, is like, spleens and necks and backs, and like there may be a little bit of meat somehow,
It's like
attached to
hot
something
dog,
after
right?
it's sat
Yeah.
outside for 2 weeks in the back of a slaughterhouse, and then some kibble company went and bought it in order, or just took it away, frankly, for a dumping fee to put into their food. And so it is difficult to compete against that because people don't employ common sense in some cases. So first of all, if all of us had a beautiful chicken breast here in front of us, that is a pinnacle part of that protein. It would be difficult for you to find a recipe anywhere where you would change the state of that chicken breast where you wouldn't recognize that it's a breast anymore. You would take the cheaper cuts that you'd grind up into some other kind of,
Right.
filled pasta or something like that. So, but people don't employ that logic that you'd never take a chicken breast, grind it up and put it into kibble where you have no idea that there was chicken
Yeah.
breast in there.
Or put the
And the cost
economics.
of it.
I'll say the
Yeah.
cost would
economics
be
kill it.
crazy,
Yeah,
right?
if it's $3-4 a pound, because we're like, even wholesale, we're not, for like a true chicken breast, like we're not getting a huge deal. Like it's no less than say 350 Canadian a pound. How do you take that and turn it in
You can't.
to a kibble that's
You
cents on the
can't.
dollar?
You can't.
You can't.
People-
You can't.
But
Like,
people don't ask those questions themselves
Because people, I don't
there
think,
is this
want to know.
mental thing where it's like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
to what Phil said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
easier.
everyone else has been feeding
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
but they
gotta
want
be
to accuse
fine.
us for being too expensive. But it's like, well, hold on a second. But ours has
But that's
$3.50 a pound chicken breast in it, so that's why it costs more.
But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have that's up to you. That how you got to tell your story, and there's times where you have to go potentially at competitors. You call out what's good in you. You don't have to go purposely. I mean, it's never to make your product better than somebody else's by beating the shit out of theirs. But I'd be very factual. If there's no chicken in it, I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
there's no chicken in it. What are they going to
Well,
do?
what
Sue me?
yeah.
What? Sue me for the truth?
It's a
Well,
bit of a
no chicken.
re-education. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to
and
spend the
that's-
time.
I was just going to say, that is the thing, Kenny, that we've been trying to do, is that we want more competitors, frankly. And
You need more competitors.
The
You
reason
need more
we're
people
doing
in this
this
space.
is to improve pet health.
100%.
And the more of
Yeah.
us that are out there
Absolutely.
marketing and educating people, the problem though is that some of the competitors that come up aren't doing what we're doing, and yet they market as if they do. And then what they do is, as Kristin was talking about earlier, they put a lot of marketing dollars behind other kind of shiny objects that don't speak to their product quality, and instead talks about like sustainability or humanely slaughtered or all these other things. And people never go, well, that's really good that they do that, but they're not talking about their actual product. So does it mean that those backs and necks that were ground up, found in the parking lot, were sustainably slaughtered? It hasn't spoken though to the product
Peter,
quality.
But that's been 50, 60 years of processed food.
Yes.
And we're finally talking about it.
Yeah.
If you went back 10 years, 10, 15 years.
But we're finally talking about it for humans, right? Like,
that's
we
my
haven't-
point.
Like, you
So
guys
you
are on
haven't-
the
you gotta
front
give it a
edge of this
chance.
thing.
You're so
Yeah.
far up front. Think about it.
Yeah.
As humans, go back 15 years, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. They can come and say whatever they want. 15 years ago, I don't know what the percentage is, but 90% didn't even know how to read a freaking label. So don't kid yourself. It's not that everybody's running around the store. Oh, look at this. They barely do that now.
Mhm.
Like they'll pick out a few brands that they've learned to trust because the brands have proven themselves trustworthy. Like they have a mantra and they've followed it. But for the most part, people don't look. So it really becomes incumbent on you. I mean, I believe you too. I think, yeah, shit, I'd do it. I mean, why wouldn't I trust you? You guys are saying all the right things. And I'd rather you tell me, no, this person's food has this in it and it doesn't have this. And if it's still okay for my pet to use whatever those attributes are, then tell me that too. Like,
yeah,
I don't,
but you know what?
It's fine.
But I guess we're also plagued by one of the things that all of us Canadians are sometimes plagued by, and that is we are incredibly nice, humble, and supportive people. Where, like, if you look at Tom and Sawyer and all the marketing we do, we never talk about a competitor. We never talk negatively. We have little competitors that create like fake review sites and all this other crap. We just try to push that away because
you don't need to do that.
They're another.
We don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that.
But that's our thing is they are much more aggressive in the US, going after particular brands, talking about things. It's a cultural thing, I guess, for us.
It's different. We don't do that. You're right.
Show that we're trying to help promote better health. We're of all the businesses we have, it is just so fulfilling to see all of these notes that come back to us of how we've helped change the life of a family pet, or how a vet was going to make a particular decision that could, impact both a budget, decision for the pet owners, or even the life of that pet. And our food has played a small role in helping kind of make a positive outcome out of that. And that's what we love, and we try to double down on.
And I think you need to double down on that. But I think it's also important, especially because what you guys know is you need to tell me why I shouldn't be doing certain things. That's great that you want to tell people that they should run every day and drink water and not smoke. But if you don't tell me the shit about smoking, all you're telling me is that really drinking water and the exercise is important. That other stuff's really not that bad for you, because we're not going to talk about it. I'm not saying you should go and beat the hell out of competitors. I don't want you to do that. But I think, I'll put it this way. I think your responsibility, because you two are very bright, you know what the hell you're doing. You're doing the right things. You need to tell me why I shouldn't do this to my pet. Like, seriously, because otherwise, you know what? I'm in the lineup, like Phil said. Everybody else is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't make it right. But someone needs to tell me sometimes, listen, you got to stop doing that. And here's why. Forget the brand. This is why this doesn't work, because there is no chicken in it. There is nothing to this, or it's high sodium or whatever the bell or buzzer is. Right?
And we are doing it. We're just at that, the David and Goliath.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be that way for years, though. You know that.
It's going to be
This is years. Listen, it's taken normal food for humans. It's still not there. We still have all the and see, that's why they're not Canadian. They're all multinationals. So don't worry about it. As Canadians, we're not picking on others.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we do it kind of one by one. I mean, give us a little bit of your time and we convert, kind of slowly.
I just need to get that. And Kristin, I love that, but I need to be able to get you. So if I get you like on a podcast like this, where there's dog talk in this house again, I mean, I would do it. I may have to look at the economics and say, okay, listen to me, we can do this, but we're only this half a month. The other half I'll cook for the pet. I just don't want to have to cook every day. I'll do it, but I might be able to augment and say, okay, listen, you know what? We won't buy kibble. I'll make the kibble.
Wait. Are you getting
a dog? Your food.
See, but this is what happens
girlfriend got a dog, so now I don't remember.
So is it you or Amelia that wants to?
Just relax. We're going to talk about dog food right now.
I'll call Amelia.
This is fantastic.
Settle down.
I heard all that.
Settle
Amelia,
down.
I'll call you later. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. So many people that we talk to who don't have pets want pets after learning about our pet food.
Well, because it's different, right? When I first saw it, he showed me, and I thought, holy shit, man, this is actually this food. This is really nice. Actually, I think I teased him because you guys said, you should have food for you. I told him, I said, you know what? This would be great if there was a complimentary meal for the parent, the pet parent.
Mm-hmm.
Send me both. Send me the human bucket and send me the pet bucket. Probably the same food. Who's going to know?
Totally the same food.
Package it differently.
Yeah.
They don't come in buckets. They come in really nice packages.
I'm sure they're
Come on, Kenny. Jeez.
Oh my Lord!
But I did. But my in-laws did do the double take, right? So I fed Sophie goji berry on the weekend, and they're like, "What is she having?" And I said, "Oh, she's having a goji berry bowl."
Goji berry beef,
or goji berry beef, right? And they're like, "She's having what?" Right? And all of a sudden, there were all these people around me. I'm like, Just
because
Yeah.
it pulls people in and
Truthfully,
thinking, why?
it's cool.
I've never had a goji berry until the chef created goji
it's
berry
kinda
beef.
cool.
I think this is
Yeah.
awesome. I really do.
Yeah.
I think you guys are
Yeah.
really, really on to something here.
Yeah.
Well, and our next thing now is to leverage. So while nutrition is really important, one of the things that we've come to realize is that, we need to help propel however we can further, strides in pet health and understanding of research around pet health.
Right.
To date, most of the research that is conducted within the industry is funded by many of the larger pet food companies. And let's just say it's really not about promoting how we get our pets to thrive. It's more of making sure that the ingredients that they want to use, the pet will survive.
Yeah.
And
And
so
so they hold that proprietary. So there's no research sharing.
yeah,
That's okay.
so
That's in
what
all
we're-
industries. We're used to that, Phil and I. That's the industries we all come from are all baked into that
Yep.
stuff.
So what we're doing now is we're going to be launching a precision pet health data platform where we're really going to be taking. So already in our other businesses, we're helping enable the world's largest research communities for areas like autism or Parkinson's disease. And what we want to do is
That's cool.
to leverage this platform to be able to promote an open research environment of data globally to really help propel pet health and to get a collection of more and more data so that, even right now, most people bring their pet to their veterinarian once per year. We were talking to members of our vet advisory board, and they're like, yeah, it's very difficult as a vet to make a decision when you only have that snapshot of like an hour of an entire year. You have no idea what the pet's gone through. And there are a lot of very motivated pet parents out there who are investing in whether it's activity trackers or taking notes about when their pet's not feeling well. And we want to start compiling that and making it available in an open yet a very much a security and privacy enhanced way like we do with human health data, so that researchers and others globally can start really going forward with further innovations to promote pet health.
Proactive pet health,
cool
not
to see.
reactive.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to see because, again, as humans, we're not really good at this yet either. But it would be kind of cool to see in terms of like how much, like the amount of money you spend taking your pet to the vet over the life of a pet. Let's say the dog lives 12 years, 14 years, whatever the number is. It'd be interesting to see. And when you go back and do it, how much is it related to poor diet? We know, like, for example, type 2 diabetes is largely borne by shitty food and no activity. Like this stuff's not rocket science.
No,
and
it's
yet
not.
we'll still down with a can of Pringles and a can of Coke and wonder why we don't feel good. So do you know what I mean? And that's a human. This is supposed to be the intellectually intelligent one in the room. What the hell's a pet supposed to do? The pet's only got you.
And it's interesting, Kenny, because what happens is like you come to realize that every single person has their own individual health journey. What works for one person does not work for someone else. Right. And like so for me, I wear a Whoop every day. And I'm very much data focused, and you see these things that kind of track how much strain you put on your body, what your recovery is. I started realizing in wearing my Whoop that if I was drinking alcohol at night, or if we were going out, we love food, and so we go out to a lot of like nice restaurants for dinners and things. I saw such a reduction in my recovery the next day that it's actually instilled in me a bit of a mental reflex where I now don't go out as much as we used to because I'm like, I'm not going to recover. I'm going to be, mentally really low tomorrow. I'm not going to feel good. And it's kind of like this feedback loop. If we can get pet parents to understand that, like, it's great to give their dog or their cat a particular, series of treats or a particular lower budget food. But if you start seeing the signs in your pet of not really living their best life, we need to have that similar feedback loop. And that's where we want to start leveraging data so that we can start making more precise individual pet-based decisions to be proactive.
And cats and dogs, but more cats get renal failure and kidney disease. And that's how the back half of their life is. And the two known things that contribute to that is low quality protein and not enough moisture.
Right.
And gee, I wonder what is low quality protein and not enough moisture.
Yeah.
Kibble. But like it's just this cycle and cycle and cycle. And so, to be able to proactively identify those things and get people thinking about, more moisture, higher higher quality ingredients, whatnot, it will start to reframe in people's minds the decisions that they need to make that actually have a measured like impact on their life.
Yep. Absolutely. And
cool.
Do we want everyone to eat Tom and Sawyer? No.
Yes.
We want to play yes. We want to play a role of educating people to understand that products like ours can be trusted and that they can feel good that they are making a small incremental change to make the health and the longevity of their pet of a higher quality. And
you need to play that even harder, Peter. It makes a massive difference. It is not a marginal difference.
No,
it's
massive not. It's difference. Massive difference.
So at the end of the day, what you really need is everybody that can afford it, or if they can't afford full tilt, to do some of it, whether it's you, to your point, like I'm with Phil, I'd rather be you. But quite frankly, if you're on your own, this industry is never going to go. You need competitors. You need people in this space, and you need to rock potentially some of the large guys to say, wake up.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and we started an industry association trying to raise the bar in terms of, in an ecosystem of there being now regulations. We want competitors to come in. We're willing to help them with the blueprint of how to do it. Problem is, no one has been willing to stand up for those standards because it's expensive. We've had to put, not only is the product expensive, but the way we make it, all of the food regulations that we have to comply with, it's very expensive. And most people, as Kristin said earlier on, it's all about, high margin dog or cat food, and they don't really care too much about the health outcomes.
But then that person was never going to participate anyways. No different than the health food industry is that most people participate in the health food industry. The margins may not be as fat as they are in conventional because all the raw ingredients are more expensive. Yeah. And you could, and the price is going to be high when it hits the shelf. But you got people, that's what they're willing to pay.
It's actually an interesting, Kenny, I was just thinking, like, as Peter was talking, I wonder, do you guys know the Canadian Health Food Association?
It's totally tied into this, Phil. Totally tied into
this. We should get you connected to Aaron 100%. And his team, because they do a lot in this space, and they take on regulatory bodies, for things.
And it's all about health for humans, but 90% of these people are pet owners.
That big of a stretch to go.
No way.
Extra step,
no, it's not.
It's not, other than the fact that at the end of the day, when you look at our laws in Canada as well as the US, pets are property, and our let's just say that the cost and complexity from an administrative perspective to change and to enact regulations to protect property doesn't really. Let's just say it's not a high priority on any.
But then you go after the emotional aspect and the people. Who own the pets. Forget the government, forget the regulations. You know what? Whatever. Because you're right. By the time, and who gives a shit? By the time they figure that out, we're all dead anyway. If you go after the pet owner, and because for most people, the pets are in the house probably because of children and or they're a little older in life. I mean, I know there's a middle ground. Don't get me wrong, but it typically starts because you have kids or you're lonely. That's what a lot of pets. You think those people give a shit about the regulations? They're going to take care of their pet because they know it's the right thing to do. That pet is part of the house. It's their family. They're going to want to. They just don't know. They probably really don't know. Phil goes and Phil's an educated person. He goes in, and why does he buy it? Because everybody else is buying it. And it's here, and that's what it is. So how bad should it be?
Yeah.
We didn't know either. And
why would you? I just assumed they'd be regulated. I mean, it's in the stores.
Yeah.
But it took me, I was a forensic accountant, and it took me a while to kind of stop and be like, hold on a second.
Right?
Yeah.
I think this is fantastic. I think you guys really need to, I think there's a ton of play in this one. A ton of play. It's going to take some time for sure. But all you need is, again.
It's been 8 years, Kenny. Yeah. So we're
8 years, 6 years, 10 years.
No, but 8 years, you've got a retail store, you've got a brand that's highly recognizable. There's some big things in there.
No,
you didn't give up.
There's a long road still, but like we've been on it for a while. We just, as you've been saying, like we want people to, to
need
join
more people.
We need a parade.
That's
don't
what you
want
need.
to be two people walking down
Yep,
the
You
street.
need
running
you
a
need more
parade.
people. So you
Yeah.
need a few
Yeah.
more retailers on board. You probably wouldn't hurt to have an association like CHFA, because I'm sure it would work. You definitely need some competition. Proper
Yep.
competition, not bullshit
Yep.
competition, like people who are actually doing the same thing as you. And they just need the right retailers to say, yeah, you know what, we can do this. We've got the
Yeah.
customer.
Well,
We know tons of those people. There's a lot of retail that can do this.
Well, you know
Right?
what? We're very proud. We've got about 300 retailers across the country. And
All
we're
pet or
very
grocery
proud
as well.
That
All-
there's been
Only pet right now. Pet
Only
retailers.
pet.
Yeah. But we're very proud that there's been a real market shift in the retail landscape where, you know, we have great partners like Ren's and Mondu and, you know, a tremendous number of great national chains that are really investing now in pet health, putting in freezer infrastructure for products like ours that where we don't want to have any kind of preservatives. We're freezing as our only means of preservation. And so, you know, we're very, very proud that the industry is going this way. We were a little out ahead of it. I will just remind, and Kristin will get a laugh, when we first opened our own first retail store, the very first customer who ever came inside the front door, we have it on camera. She looked around and with this look on her face, she's like, this is stupid. And like, she just went on this whole tirade about what were we doing? And, you know, 8 years later, we're the only company that's still around and, you know, easily
She did not. She actually did that?
It was
incredible.
Awful. Like when she walked out, the staff member who was with me and myself, like he just like we just kind of were standing there stunned, like
done.
Don't worry, just go into every other store and doing
That's
the
like
same.
That's when you want to
yeah.
open the freezer, go inside the freezer,
Just
and
whatever, man.
Yeah, no. But here's the thing: is that I love is that, you know, something that people don't understand because it's so different and so new, and
Yeah, it's just stupid.
Because they don't get it. So it's
Exactly.
like, yeah.
But that's like
you know,
anything, right? They're ignorant.
it's
I mean,
like-
if you're not even going to try to learn,
Exactly.
like maybe you learn and you say, okay, this isn't for me. But it doesn't have to go to. As soon as someone goes to that, you know, as well as they'll walk into a health food store. Oh, these vitamins are stupid. All right, sure.
Yeah.
That was based on a lot of thinking and thought. Good, yeah, good job. Good
we're
argument.
almost out of time, but
Cool, guys.
what I would love is if you guys came back at some point, because I think so here are all the bits in my head that we've skipped over that everybody who's listening to this podcast will be shouting at us for, right? Is like software company, forensic accountant, blah 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 blah, figured out this nutrition thing, started making this wicked brand. We haven't talked about like your first, like we talked about your first day, your first customer. We haven't talked about, you know,
What happened, Phil? Where did you go with this podcast?
do you ever wish that you stayed a forensic accountant?
No.
You know, like conquering cold chain is like a whole
terrible.
It's like a whole discussion on its own, right? Like what do you mean? Like why is it so they're frozen? Oh no, like what? Why did everything just change when I said they're frozen? Right?
Well, I would have
Like,
gone down this path if we had, because
like,
the first time he told me, show me the pictures going through it. I said, this is awesome. I said, where is it? And I said, well, how does it, you know, like what's shelf life? He goes, it's frozen.
Frozen,
I thought,
like frozen bunkers in retail, right? Like
I mean, that is
like, it needs to be in frozen. They all went, oh wow,
yeah, that's a disaster.
But we are flying boxes of food all over the world. We flew boxes of food to somebody's home in Bahamas and had to like get it through customs. Like
that's a nightmare.
Our food has been to more places in the world than I have. Because these people with their pets, like they're like, well, their pets come with us, and so the food has to come with us, and you have to figure out how to get it there. Yeah, and it can't be some other brand down in wherever. Like, no, it's got to be Tom Sawyer. So we've had to figure out how to fly frozen food around the world.
If I take the dog, I'm gonna have to take the food with me. Now look what you guys have done.
And you know what? We'd love to come back at any time. We you know, we're leaders in the therapeutic diet space. Kristin talks about the fact that in seemingly starting one business, we've had to kind of become experts and launch 6 others to deal with things like the lack of attribution models with online advertising and all these things that you know, there's so many interesting things that we've had to figure out that
Yeah.
frankly
I
this industry
created like
hasn't
the
figured out.
worst business school case study ever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. The answer should have been like, just don't start the business. That would have been the answer. But instead,
that's for most
we've-
people, right? It's hard. Nobody appreciates until you're
hard.
in it. Nobody understands how hard it is. Like it's not
hard.
It's not for the faint of heart, and you got to be committed and convicted, and you got to have the passion for it. I think what you guys are doing is really
Exactly.
cool. I think it's good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think
it's cool.
we needed to do this first because I don't think anyone really appreciates, how complex the problem is and how dumb the industry is.
But this could be multiple podcasts filled
Yeah,
because the problem is
I think
the pet
because of
industry is
that,
a
right?
hard
Yeah,
industry anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's still because it's still antiquated. If you think about it, the pet industry, you and I've talked about this. The pet industry
100%
now
it
is sort of where natural health was 25, 30 years ago. Like they're so
Agree.
far behind,
Agree.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the
Yeah.
retailers in the space now, it's got the same problem that a lot of grocers. The consolidation's been insane. There's not a lot of independence left. You got now mass stores. You're not going to find anybody. Or you're going to find Johnny or Jane Stockhead. And what the hell do they know? And they couldn't know things. No offense to Johnny and Jane, but
Yeah.
seriously, you're not going to get the help you really need. So
like on that point too, like just the pet industry alone, like the competition that they are trying, the competition barriers they're trying to put up, right, is like you've got kind of big retailers that don't want to have what smaller or specialty retailers have, right? Like they want to be able to carry very different things, which is where the CPG industry was 20 years ago, right? Like everyone was like,
years,
oh no, big business can't have what little business has. And you go, yeah, they can.
Yeah,
like,
they can.
There's a reason why you can do that. It's about the level of service, right? So big business, you pay less, but good luck. Go figure it out, right? Like little business, you pay more, but you get knowledge, you get experiential.
Exactly.
That's the split, right? But
I'm trying to figure out how they can
right?
get
Pet
in.
retail isn't there yet, right? So,
and I think that's why, like, I get to the point where what I was asking where you were is because I get to the point where I bypass it. I hate to say that to poor pet people, but whatever. You know where you need to be. You need to be in a Longo's or a Farm Boy. Like you need to be in stores where I go buy my food and I'll buy my pet's food, because at the end of the day, it's one less stop. And in theory, it should relate. I mean, it even tells you basically, like it's almost got to be in the same freaking coolers. Well, not being that close, but close.
It
should be that.
So
it
in the
can't be
US,
the teeny aisle no more.
Let's just say this is a very appropriate conversation that we will continue another time.
Oh yeah. Picking stuff another time. Part two.
Well, I'll find you a part two, and we'll do this. We'll do more.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think what you guys do is really neat. Good job.
In the meantime, if people want to find Tom and Sawyer, where
YouTube?
Where do they go, or YouTube?
Yeah, so we are at www.tomandsawyer.com. You can buy a la carte, or you can subscribe and save to a meal plan, and we will ship across Canada. You can come into our own store at 1247 Queen Street East in Toronto. You can see a show kitchen in there. You can bring your pets in. You can just grab and go from there. And then we are also available across Canada. Some of our VIP retailers are Wren's, Bone and Biscuits, Pet Values, Global Pets, all of the biggies, but also, we want to shout out to some of our great independent retailers across Canada too, because those are the ones that are owner operated, and they're the ones who really, really know their products in their stores. And on our website, under the shop, there is a retailer map. And so you can handy dandy put in your address, and you will find out all of your Tom and Sawyer retailers there.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much.
And I'm serious. We'll find a time for part two, because there's so many more.
There's a lot of cool stuff here, guys. It's really cool.
So many things. Yeah. So many things, guys.
No, it's good.
Awesome.
I don't want to date this particular podcast, but I will have to give a shout out to say go Leafs go tonight. So
for sure,
fingers crossed,
man. We got a couple Canadian potentials.
We've got about 4 episodes before this one comes out, so I can always edit that part out if it doesn't really go well.
Spoken like a true Leafs fan, right?
No, that'll be for the next series then already.
I was going to say, why'd you guys put them out? What happened? That was the next series. No big deal.
Exactly.
No big deal.
I've lived in Toronto all of my life, so
yeah. When's the last time you saw this?
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly it is. We're on
None
the
of us have been
precipice.
alive. To see
This
that.
is
we're,
why
we're
it's
on the
good.
precipice, and so
Hopefully,
everyone
yeah.
goes, "Yay, we won our last game." I don't know how we're
Buddy,
gonna
listen,
do
you
it,
get
but we're-
Vancouver, you get Vancouver excited about Toronto winning anything? Okay, let's be serious
Exactly.
now.
True.
Even
That
out
is
here, we were
true.
thinking, oh, that's just not bad.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably cheering for the Oilers right now, eh?
No,
Closer to
that's
you.
Alberta.
No.
Come on, we're
Well,
not
yeah.
terribly for Alberta.
all right, okay. That's a different podcast.
That's another podcast.
That's a whole different
Very
podcast.
good.
You
Anyways, well,
guys,
thank you
thanks so
very
much.
much,
Thanks
guys.
much for coming
Thank
on.
you
That was
very
great.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Phil,
All
you
right,
hang
have a
on.
good
Take
You
care.
guys enjoy your
you
evening.
guys enjoy your night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take
You
care.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
I
That's
love
cool.
those two.
Yeah,
They're so intense.
well, they're just doing
but
cool
they're
shit
so
too,
in
though,
it,
right?
Like,
Yeah, I just like what they're doing.
yeah,
I think
it's big. It's big.
yeah. No, seriously, yeah, they've just got some interesting
Yeah,
stuff happening,
so
right?
I think I mean, really, like part two, there's so many things. We wouldn't talk about any of the retail bits, right? Like, so like
Yeah.
you go from forensic accountant. It's one thing to cook your dog's meals, but then like to go from that to assembling experts, which is already kind of crazy. Then starting to make this stuff, opening a retail store, like figuring out like how to freeze this stuff, like going from I made it fresh to I got to freeze it in order to, do you know what I mean? Like all of the things that in there, we didn't even get to any of that, right? So like to
Well,
me,
because we
there's,
kind of, it just went
no,
where
no,
it
it's
went, right?
important
And I just
because we
like
needed
what they're
to,
doing.
we needed to do all of this first,
Yeah.
but oh my
I
gosh,
like it. I
so
just
many
think
more
it's,
bits, right?
I think
So,
it's just really cool. I think
yeah.
they got a lot of neat things happening. Yeah, it's funny because we never got like the Frozen thing is still, yeah, that's still tough for me. Not in a bad way. It's just because it's a
everything
tough
I
one.
just named, we'd be lucky to fit into a second episode.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
'Cause
just
I
saying,
find-
right?
I
Like
find that- yeah.
that's how big this thing. And then we haven't talked about what the heck. Like, how do you start marketing this thing? Like, transparently, I'm helping them now, right? So,
Right.
you know, I don't want listeners to think I'm, you know, but at the same time, like at the beginning of this, what the heck, right? Like, who's talking about this? Not very many people, right? So, like, getting this thing to take off is like all of it, right? Like, so
well, it's all difficult, but again,
Yeah.
I still think a large part of it has to come from really no different than what the natural health industry did. At the beginning, they all stood there and they didn't want to talk to anybody and blah 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 blah, right? That's what they did.
Yeah.
But you're looking at it, you think, no, you have to talk about what people are not doing
You do.
well. You have
do.
to. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You don't
you
have
do.
to say Purina. You don't have to say whoever it
Nope.
is. Who cares?
No, but
But
you got to call out
I'm
like
sorry, I
chicken
think you do
flavored is
too.
not the same as not real chicken breast, right? Like anyway, it's an hour and 10. We're the only ones left. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Interesting.